in the following way. And division of the kingdom is like this. Phylum, it's for division, then for plants and fungi. And what is the phylum? It's a group of related classes. All the classes will be combined together, will be collected and will be categorized into a group which is known as phylum. Second taxa is class. A class is a group of related orders, and order is a group of related families, and family is a group of related genera, and genus is a group of related species, and species consist of similar organisms. Now you will see that it's a classification, it's an example of classification of human and pea, that how human is classified and how pea is classified. So the kingdom for the human is Animalia. Basically there are all living organisms are divided into 5 kingdoms, but that 5 kingdom classification system will be discussed in the next lesson. In this lesson we just only focus what's the meaning of classification and how we classify the organisms, and what are the drawbacks of 2 and 3 kingdom. So in this we will see that what's the classification of human and pea. In this you will see that kingdom is Animalia, human is belong to kingdom Animalia, and then there is a phylum Chordata. Class is Mammalia. There are 5 classes, and I'm sure you have studied about the classes in the 6th class. Number 1 class is class Pisces, fishes. Then there is a second class, amphibians, which is related to the frog. Like example of amphibian is this frog, which lives the dual condition and dual environment, like in the water as well as on the land. Then third class is reptile, and 4th is apes, and the 5th one is Mammalia. Order primates, and family name is Hominidae, and genus Homo, and species name is Homo sapien. Then there is a classification of pea, which is belong to kingdom Plantae, and phylum is Magnolia phyta, class Magnoliopsida, order Fabaceae, family Fabaceae, genus Pisum, and species name is Pisum sativum. So it's a simple classification. So through this we can easily categorize that this belongs to which genus, it belongs to which family, it belongs to which order, which class, and which phylum or which kingdom. We can easily trace the evolutionary history from where it's evolved, to which organisms it has the close resemblance, and to which organisms it has the least or distinct resemblance. So through this classification we can easily study the organisms. So what's the definition of species? That one is the unit of classification. Just like we say that cell is the basic and structural and functional unit of the living organism, so species is the basic unit of classification. A species is a group of organisms which can interbreed freely among them and produce fertile offspring, but are reproductively isolated from all other such groups in nature. And please, in the second, you have to focus that in the definition of species, we must emphasize in nature, because 2 organisms related to 2 different but closely related species can crossbreed under artificial conditions. And in such unnatural processes, they produce infertile offspring. For example, a cross between a male donkey and a female horse produces an infertile offspring mule. So let's start history of classification. What's the history of classification? So number 1 scientist, that one is Aristotle, and earliest known system of classification of organisms comes from the Greek philosopher. He classified all living organisms known at that time as either in the group Plantae or Animalia. Like how they categorize those organisms which can synthesize their food and can prepare their food, and like they have a cell wall, these are categorized into kingdom Plantae. And those organisms which can't synthesize their food and which don't have cell wall, and those organisms are motile and they can move from one place to the other place, are categorized into a kingdom which is known as Animalia. So first one scientist, Aristotle, who basically explained that all the living organisms are divided into 2 kingdoms. Second, Abu Usman Umar al-Jahiz. In 700s, Abu Usman Umar al-Jahiz described the characteristics of 350 species of animal in his book. He wrote a lot about the life of ants. And then Ibn Rushd in 1172 he translated Aristotle's book De Anima in Arabic. In the end of 15th century, many had started their work. Like Andrea, he divided plants into 15 groups and called them genera. John Ray published important work on plants classification. Augustus introduced the taxon of order. Tournefort introduced the taxa of class and species, and Carolus Linnaeus grouped species according to similar physical characteristics. So the Carolus Linnaeus, that one is a famous scientist who divided the nature into three kingdoms: mineral, vegetables, and animal. And then Linnaeus used the 5 ranks in classification: class, order, genus, species, and variety. He is also known for his introduction of the method, which is still we are using to formulate the scientific name of every species, and that method is known as binomial nomenclature. And in the next lesson, inshallah, we will discuss about the binomial nomenclature. So that scientist who worked a lot for the classification of the living organisms. Two kingdom classification system. It's the oldest system and classifies all organisms into 2 kingdoms, Plantae and Animalia. According to it, all organisms that can prepare food from simple inorganic material and thus can store energy are autotroph and are included in kingdom Plantae. And on the other hand, the organisms that can't synthesize their food and depends on autotrophs or other are heterotroph and are included in kingdom Animalia. And according to this system, bacteria, fungi, and algae were also included in kingdom Plantae. Now see this flowchart. You can see that the living beings are divided into 2 kingdoms, kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia. Kingdom Plantae consists of all plants, and bacteria, algae, fungi, bryophytes, stratophytes, gymnosperms, and angiosperms are also included in this group. And animals, kingdom Animalia have animals, invertebrates, including protozoa. All these organisms are included in kingdom Animalia. And on what basis? Plants and animals are categorized on the basis of their ability of locomotion, response to external stimuli, mode of nutrition, conductile and contractile system, and the last one on the basis of the presence of cell wall or absence of cell wall. See the picture of Euglena. You can see that chlorophyll is present in these organisms in the Euglena, but there is the absence of cell wall. These are the drawbacks of 2 kingdom classification system, because some taxonomists found this system unworkable. Why? Reason that many unicellular organisms like Euglena have both plant-like and animal. In the previous slide, I have explained that on what basis they have divided the organisms into 2 groups. Like if organisms look like plant and can prepare their food, they are categorized into kingdom Plantae, and those which can't prepare their food are known as heterotrophic organisms, are categorized into animals. But Euglena, it has a separate case because it shows the both characteristics. Like plants, at the daytime, due to the presence of chlorophyll, it can synthesize its food, and in the darkness, it has the second mode of nutrition. That one is a heterotrophic, and it also lacks cell wall. Otherwise, we scientists have divided into 2 kingdoms on the basis of cell wall as well. If cell wall is absent, then that will be categorized into animal, and if cell wall is present, then that will be categorized as a plant. But in Euglena, which shows the both characteristics like plants as well as animals, so there should be a separate kingdom like these organisms, like Euglena organisms. And second point, that this system also ignored the difference between organisms that have prokaryotic and those having eukaryotic cells. After the objection on 2 kingdom classification system, in 1866, Ernst Haeckel solved the first objection and proposed a 3rd kingdom, Protista, to accommodate Euglena-like organisms. He also included bacteria in kingdom Protista, and in this system, fungi were still included in the kingdom. And you can see this picture. It's a picture of mushroom, which is a type of kingdom fungi, and it's still included in this kingdom. It's a special type of heterotroph which looks like a plant body, but it can't synthesize its own food. Its cell wall is made up of chitin. Drawback. Some biologists disagreed about the position of fungi in kingdom Plantae. Fungi resemble plants in many ways but are not autotrophs. And this system also didn't clear the difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Okay students, lesson is over. Now it's a recap that what are the main points. Number one, at least 10 million kinds of organisms inhabit the earth, but less than 1/3 of these have been studied and catalogued by biologists. And biodiversity means that there is a variety of species in different ecosystems. And even earth today is the result of 4 billion years of evolution, over 1.5 million types of animals and over 0.5 million types of plants are known to biologists. Total 2 million types of living organisms are known to biologists. And biological classification is a method by which biologists divide organisms into groups and subgroups. And the branch which deals with classification is known as taxonomy, and the branch which deals with classification and also traces the evolutionary history of organisms is known as systematic. And classification is based on the relationship between organisms, and that relationship is got through the similarities in their characteristics. And the group into which organisms are classified are known as taxonomic categories or taxa. Taxa form a ladder which is known as taxonomic hierarchy, and all organisms are divided into 5 kingdoms. Members of lower taxon resemble one another more than do the member of a higher taxon. And species is the basic unit of classification. Each species possesses its own distinct structural, ecological and behavioral characteristics. And earliest known of classification of organisms comes from the Greek philosopher Aristotle, and then onward different scientists have contributed a lot in the formation of a specific system of classification. And now we have modern 5 kingdom classification system. Thank you guys.